Dr. Tracy Gapin, welcome to the conversation today.
Thanks so much, John. Glad to be here with you.
It is a real pleasure. Where are you joining us from?
I'm in Sarasota, Florida.
Oh, wonderful. I bet the weather's beautiful. It's very cold here. I'm south of Salt Lake City in Utah, and
Yeah.
we're in deep freeze mode right now. Not a lot of snow in the valleys, but in the mountains, tons. And we're just weathering the cold. But you're probably nice and warm, aren't you?
It's getting down to the 50s, and it's like the Arctic weather for us. We don't know what to do with our snow. Yeah, it's paradise here for the most part.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, today we're going to have the opportunity to talk about optimizing your health and your wealth and really how those go together and how to be high-performing individuals and the various aspects that go into that, especially
Yeah.
the health aspects that go into
Yeah.
that. And that's really where your background, your expertise comes into play. As we get started, I wanted to share Doc Tracy's bio with everybody. Dr. Tracy Gapin is a board certified urologist, world renowned men's health and performance expert, and the founder of the Gapin Institute, the global leader in high performance health. He has over 20 years of experience focused on providing executives, entrepreneurs, and athletes a personalized path to optimize their health and fulfill their highest potential. He is also a TEDx speaker as well as the author of Male 2.0 and the Codes of Longevity. And there's a whole lot more I could say about your background, but I'm going to pause there. Anything you would like to highlight by way of your background or personal context before we dive on in?
Yeah, so I come from the broken, failing, disease-centric world of traditional healthcare. I was a
Mm,
urologist for 20 plus years. Now I like to say I'm a recovering urologist, where I've seen the light, where I was so focused on treating prostate cancer and disease for so many years. And through my own health issues, I learned how our healthcare system is failing. And we need to take a very different approach and forget the political environment right now, whether you like RFK or whoever, it doesn't matter. The point is that we are failing. And, over three-quarters of us are obese or overweight. Over half of us have at least one chronic disease.
yeah.
Testosterone levels are plummeting. And for the first time in decades, we're actually dying younger. We spend more on healthcare than anyone else on the planet, but we're dying younger. And so what we're doing isn't working, and we need to take a really different approach.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that is kind of frightening, isn't it? Um, of any modern industrialized nation, we have all the tools. We have, all the innovations. We have the pharma. We have the technologies. We spend the money, yet our care isn't the greatest,
Yeah.
and our health outcomes are not great. We lag, a lot of other peer countries around the world, and that's really quite sad. The fact that our lifespan is decreasing, and um, you would know all the statistics, but in terms of like heart disease and diabetes and all these different aspects of chronic
Yeah.
illness, we're kind of middle of the pack, aren't we? We're certainly not leading.
We're lagging behind. It's pretty pathetic where we are. But I want to come back to, the relevance of this because a lot of people hear the statistics. Yeah, yeah, okay. We need to get healthy. But this applies to everyone who's listening today because when we talk about peak performance, when we talk about running a business or running a wealth advisory firm or leading a team, everything that you do in your daily life is affected by this. And to
Yeah,
put it in
absolutely.
financial terms, your health can be your greatest asset or your worst liability. And so it affects performance in our business. It affects our relationships. It affects our connection to our family and our kids. And ultimately it affects our longevity as well. So it's really time that we get away from the reactive approach to traditional healthcare and wait until there's a problem and be more proactive and how can I really get ahead of the game.
Yeah, and I think that's my biggest critique of the U.S. system. There's lots of things to critique, but my biggest critique is we're so reactive and we're not proactive, and we preventative care is not really a thing here. You know, and it's so frustrating. And when we talk about being healthy, for like me, I'm a 45-year-old man with six children, and so I can think about I want to be healthy for my kids, for my wife, for my kids. So I'm here, to be there for my kids' weddings and things like that. Yes, though that motivates me. But so often, people want to lose weight. Why? it's vanity. It's not because they want to be healthy. It's because they want to lose weight so they look good in their
Yeah.
swimsuit or whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that to like want to look good, but like where is like wanting to be healthy just to be healthy so that you can actually like have the energy to like show up for your relationships and
Yeah.
have the energy to show up for your work so that you can, actually be creative and innovative and do the things that will help you be your best self. That's really what we want. And yet I think that's often lost in our society. I think I really worry about, sometimes I think our values are a bit out of whack. And I travel quite a bit. I go to different parts of the world, and it doesn't take much traveling to realize that there's a big distinction between like how we tend to view things here in the US versus
Yeah.
a lot of other parts of the world when it comes to health and like exercise and what you eat and just like work-life balance, sleep, all those types of things. I think a lot of other parts of the world kind of have it right, and we don't so much.
Yeah, it's time to take a very different perspective, to be more proactive and understand that, when you're struggling with low energy or difficulty with focus, or you can't burn fat, can't build muscle, having trouble sleeping, having trouble with sex, having trouble with, drive and performing at work, a lot of that comes down to some underlying health issues that the earlier you can address them, the better off you're going to be, and it's going to translate exponentially to your performance in your daily life.
Yeah, yeah. And as I introduced the topic for today, I made the connection between health and wealth, right? And of course that connects with performance, right? But can you
Yeah,
can you lay that out for us a little bit more?
yeah,
What is that connection between health and wealth? Why does that matter? Why should we be paying attention to that?
yeah. So when people talk about peak performance, they often think, oh, that's like for athletes, Ironman, triathlon, Olympians. But peak performance means, for the listener who's running a small business or a wealth advisory firm or a leader in a community, your energy every day, your ability to focus and concentrate and be able to think clearly and make sharp, quick, fast decisions, your ability to be a leader, and your drive and your mood and even your physical appearance. These all affect your interaction with every single person you engage with on a daily basis. And it affects your relationships with your employees, with your colleagues, with your community. It affects your relationship with your spouse. It definitely affects your connection with your kids. And that was, for me, my big focus, my big passion is how can I be the most present and engaged father that I can be.
Hmm.
That, to me, that's what it's all
Hmm.
about. But that translates into everything else I do in life. It affects your confidence. It affects everything about you as a human being by focusing on these things that matter, like hormones and inflammation and blood sugar regulation and gut health and all these things that traditional healthcare doesn't even think about, but they are paramount and they are foundational for us to be able to perform at the highest level in every area of our life. And that's the real connection there that I think is important to emphasize.
Yeah, yeah, excellent. And just when I think about aspects, not just the here and now, like the day, certainly the immediacy of it, being healthier now allows me to be uh, more present, more productive, more uh, there for my people, for my friends, my family, my kids, my coworkers, right? All of that matters today, but it also matters, like you mentioned it, like just longevity, lifespan. We live in a day and an age where um, people are not working. I mean, the expectation I tell my kids is you're not going to be working a 40-year career. You're going to be working more like a 60-year career. That's the
Mm-hmm.
reality today,
Mm-hmm.
for the modern generation. Whether
Yeah.
we like it or not, that's kind of where things have shifted. Um, and so if you're thinking about a 60-year career instead of a 40-year career like our parents, had,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, that's a different beast, right? That's a totally different kind of way of thinking about career, work life, about all that kind of stuff. And then you have to also think about, well, what does it look like um, to navigate a 60-year career span? What does it look like to prepare for when you do get to retirement, to have the finances in place to be able to allow you with longer lifespans, even though, we overall, we see some declines now, but overall, like compared to 100 years ago, right? Lifespans are increasing. So, we have to be able to navigate um, all of that, as it goes together. We have to be able to understand and navigate the connection between health and saving, productivity, all of that, so that we're prepared. And one thing it's kind of a new trend for like Gen Z, younger millennial and Gen Z, is they're doing like these what they call micro retirements. So they're thinking in lieu of this 60-year career prospect, why in the world am I going to wait till I'm 70 to to uh, to retire, or later 75, to retire. And then maybe I'm not healthy, maybe I don't have the opportunities to do the types of things I want to do. So instead, I'm gonna, work for a while and then take a year off and take a micro retirement, and then I'll go back and work for a while, and then I'll take a year off. And then, like those types of things, that's the mentality of younger people. But you can't just do that. Like, you have to prepare for it. You have to like financially prepare for it. You have to uh, be productive enough and successful enough to be able to do that. It's not just something that magically happens unless you're willing to like bum around and sleep on your friends' couches for a year. And so, I think all of this, does connect and it goes together. And we want everyone to be able to be happy and thrive, but you're not going to be able to do that unless first you're healthy, and second you're paying attention to, your financial wellness along the way.
Yeah, for sure. And great point. The concept of longevity, a lot of people instantly think of their grandparents, and at 82 years old, they were frail and decrepit and couldn't move, couldn't walk, and lived a miserable, last few years of their life, as an example. But longevity now has a very different connotation. So now we're talking about what you just described, is that, imagine if you could live to 100 years old and be healthy and feel like you do today. You have
Yeah.
energy, you have focus, you have drive, you're able to enjoy daily activities and do the things that you love still, and without aches and pains, and be able to function like you do right now. So it's this is the concept of lifespan versus health span, where it's really optimizing your health so that you can enjoy better quality of life today, but also so that you can maintain that as long as you can without falling off the cliff when you hit your later years. And when you do that, that's going to improve your performance, your productivity today, as well as decades down the road. And so that's just a massive distinction between this concept of peak performance and health optimization, rather than just treating disease and illness and symptoms when they occur, like our existing healthcare system.
Right, right. And the preventative care aspect just becomes all the more important. If I want to be a healthy 80 instead of a decrepit 80, you know, and to your point, I love my parents. I love my father and my mother, but the difference between the two in terms of their health, they're about the same age. They're both in their late 70s. My mom is a healthy late 70s, and my dad is a very unhealthy late 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been a very unhealthy kind of since his late 50s, really, the last 20 years. And my mom will probably live into her late 90s as a very spry, kind of healthy woman, and my dad's eking along, and some of that's not always because of their choices and life choices. Some of it's genetic, there's all sorts of different factors that go into that, of course. But there also are, factors that are under control, and I understand, even with some of the genetic stuff, like I understand predispositions, and I understand what I need to be careful of, things that my dad and his dad were predisposed to, that I need to definitely pay attention to. I need to make sure that, if unless I want to kind of fall into that same trap, I need to make sure that I'm getting the right, I'm taking care of myself. I'm getting the right exercise and eating the right foods, and so I can try to sidestep and avoid some of the things, that he has experienced. And if I don't, I probably will, find myself in my late 50s experiencing some of the same things he's experienced. And I certainly don't want that. That's not that far away for me. That's 15 years from now. And I certainly don't want that, and I don't want to be eking out the last 20, 30 years of my life, being unhealthy. Yeah, that sounds terrible.
So I'm going to push back on you a little bit here, John, because what we now recognize, this is a really important distinction as well, is this concept of epigenetics and individualization. Okay. So
Hmm.
epigenetics is simply the science of how our environment and lifestyle behaviors affect our genetic expression, affects the way our bodies work. What we now recognize is that over 90% of disease, of illness, is actually behavioral, is lifestyle related, meaning that we can actually impact that, and that what our parents and grandfather and grandparents may have suffered from is not necessarily our destiny. And so that's why
Well,
what we do,
I
we're
hope
so
so.
yeah, we're so focused on individualization. So let me give you an example. So like there are genes related to nutrition and how our body
Hmm.
processes certain like fats, for example. And the one example here, ApoE gene is a gene that regulates how our bodies break down and metabolize saturated fat and actually carbohydrate sugars as well. For
Hmm.
people who have a variant of that gene, they're at a markedly increased risk of Alzheimer's disease and
Hmm.
early cardiovascular disease. However, with specific dietary maneuvers, specifically tailored to that genetic variant, that risk goes away completely. And so
Hmm.
the point is that what we focus on is how do we create a customized plan for each of our clients that focuses on your unique genetics, your unique comprehensive blood labs, your functional testing. Because my tagline or one of my expressions that I've coined is one size fails all, and that
Hmm.
means what's right for one person's often wrong for the next. And so we
Right.
use genetics to, people always say, just tell me what to do, right? Or you're looking on Twitter or Reddit or online for, these influencers are telling you what the heck you should be doing, what you should be eating, what supplements you should be taking. But in fact, your genetics, your personalized genetic blueprint, your functional testing, looking at your gut and hormones and advanced markers of inflammation and metabolism help us understand exactly what you should be doing. And it's often not what you think. And so
Hmm.
this is where I think that the customization and the understanding that everyone is unique and different, and that what you're being told to from in the general public arena may not be right for you, and you can actually control that often by understanding your physiology and what you need to be doing.
Well, I appreciate that and I love that because that definitely gives me hope. I don't want to fall down the same path.
Yeah.
My grandfather passed away in his early 70s. Again, my father's in his late 70s, but certainly hasn't been healthy for a long time. And yeah, I want to live a
Yeah.
long, healthy, prosperous life, and I don't want to be eking out the last couple decades of my life. I want to be active and productive,
Yeah.
and I want to be like my mom, and I do believe that I have that potential, if I make good choices and live, eat the right way and get the right exercise and those sorts of things. And you're giving me more hope that that actually is possible. So that's wonderful. And I think, a message for everyone, in the audience is yeah, absolutely. Specialized approaches to our treatment. That's something that I've always been excited about with advances in technology, is just the ability to target treatment to people around their specific, genetic code. I don't know all the specifics of about how it all works, but I've been to enough talks and lectures to understand that what's possible now is far better than what was possible even a generation ago, in terms of being able um, to to specify and target treatments to individuals rather than, like you just said, like mass kind of generalized approaches to people. Because like you said, what works for, people generally might actually be the exact wrong thing for me specifically. And we need that individualized approach. Ultimately, I want to be able to, you know, make good choices, eat well, get exercise, get good sleep, and I want to be able to get up, show up for my family, show up at work, do good work, make a good contribution, be happy, healthy. and contribute. I think that's what everyone wants, and yet we often feel trapped. We feel trapped by our habits. Perhaps we feel trapped by um, you know our current situation, and sometimes we just don't feel like there's a way out. And we and ultimately, I think there is a way out. That's what you're saying, is there is a way out, and we can make better choices, and we can find our way to peak performance in all aspects of our lives.
Yeah, and I believe it starts with advanced comprehensive testing to start. People always say, what's the first step? How do I get going? What do I need to do? Just tell me what to do. And I always recommend starting with comprehensive blood labs. It's the simplest, easy way to
Mm-hmm.
start. And what you're going to find are your blind spots. And so what you just said is fantastic, that we all want to do the right thing, but number one, how do I get myself to do what I know I'm supposed to do? But number two, what do I do? What's right for me? And what should I be focused on? And so starting with the blood labs, it helps you find the blind spots that may be different than what you think. So, for example, I love to tell the story of Bob Harper. He's the head trainer on the TV show The Biggest Loser, and that guy looks great. He's the epitome of good health, helping people lose weight, get in shape. At 51 years old, Bob Harper had a massive heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
It almost killed him. He almost died. And I asked, how is that possible? How is it possible for someone who's so healthy? And the answer is, well, he looks healthy, but he's not. And
Yeah.
he found out afterwards that it was a marker, a blood marker that we test called LP little a. And LP little a is a lipoprotein. It's a subtype of LDL that most doctors don't know about. Most doctors don't ever check, but it is a massive risk factor for early cardiovascular disease. And when you have issues with LP little a, for example, the approach is completely different than for the typical cholesterol approach that you hear about, just take a statin sort of nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And so finding your blind spots is really how you start to move in that direction, John, of what the heck do I do?
Yeah, awesome. Well, and I'm glad. I assume I don't follow that show, but I assume he ended up okay
He
after
survived. Yeah.
surviving.
Yeah. He survived, and he's now he's very outspoken now about getting tested for LP little, for example, for him. But, it's looking at complex lipid markers like that, ApoB and LP little. It's looking at complex hormones that most doctors don't ever look at, markers of inflammation. One of the biggest things that most doctors don't ever look at that drives almost everything is the gut. So talk
Mm-hmm.
about the
Mm-hmm.
microbiome, the balance of microbes in your gut, your colon, and the health and integrity of your gut wall literally controls almost everything happening in your body. Energy systems, metabolism, neurotransmitters, hormones, you name it. And a lot of times when people are having issues with weight, issues
Mm-hmm.
with energy, issues with immune function problems, recurring infections, stuff like that, a lot of that's in the gut. And so it's finding those blind spots that's going to help high performers really take everything to the next level.
Yeah, yeah, I love it. Well, Tracy, this has just been a great conversation. I know there's a whole lot more that could be said, but I also know at the time I probably need to let you go here in a few minutes. Before we wrap things up, I wanted to give you a chance to share with the audience how they can connect with you, find out more about your work, your team,
Sure.
and then give us the final word on the topic for today.
Thanks so much. Yeah. So website's gapininstitute.com. That's GAPIN institute.com. And I have a number of gifts for the listeners. If you go to gapininstitute.com/launch, LAUNCH, as in peak launch, gapininstitute.com/launch, I'm going to give you, number one, a copy of my best-selling book, Mail 2.0. You'll get a digital copy with the companion guide. You'll get my high performance health handbook. I'll share my ultimate peptide guide, amazing cutting edge science and research around the latest and greatest peptides. My peak launch masterclass. I'm going to give you a copy of my TEDx talk that I gave last year on the men's health crisis. And there's also a link if you want to connect with my team and learn how we can help you. There's a link for a complimentary discovery call as well. So again, complimentary gift for everyone at gapininstitute.com/launch.
Wonderful. Any final parting thoughts for everyone to get us thinking around in the right way
Yeah.
as we go about our days?
Yeah. Test, don't guess. A lot of noise
Yep,
out there, a lot of misinformation. What's right for you? One size fails all. Get tested. And the key thing is your health directly impacts your performance in every area of your life.
I love it. I love it. Tracy, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure. I encourage the audience to get connected, find out more about what Tracy and his team can do for you. Check out all those resources. And as always, I hope everyone can stay healthy and safe, that you can find meaning and purpose at work each and every day. And I hope you all have a great week.